More of the same for Maryland basketball.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. More of the exact same for Maryland basketball last night on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock against Northwestern. Felt like I was watching exactly what I've watched the entire season for Maryland basketball. It's been the same, basically drawing the same picture, the same photo, whatever you want to use. It's been the same thing every single night, it almost feels like, at this point. Maryland basketball loses to Northwestern 68-61 at home, and the Terps move to 15-14, 10th in the Big Ten, and 7-11 in conference. Jameer Young says he's trying to stay positive and that they're better than what the record says they are. But at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. I know sometimes I say teams aren't as good as their record. I have said that with a couple teams that we have played. I have said that again about Northwestern, actually, who we just played. I said they're not as good as their record are because right now Northwestern's a top 3 team in the Big Ten, and I don't even think they're that good of a team. I don't think they're that elite. I mean, maybe they'll keep proving me wrong, but I don't think that this Maryland team, I don't think this game should have been a loss at home. I thought we would beat Northwestern at home. I said it on my predictions part of the last segment yesterday of the podcast. I said I thought Maryland basketball would win the game. I thought we were going to be in a good spot to win the game. I thought that we were going to be at home, and Northwestern was 3-6 on the road before this, but now they're 4-6. I thought Big Ten teams win at home. I thought that Maryland would win this game, but no, I was wrong, and I feel crazy for picking Maryland because it's the same thing every single game. Maryland cannot shoot the ball. We are broke. We cannot shoot the ball at all. Think about guys with the brokest jump shots in the NBA, whoever you may think of, guys that are broke that can't shoot. One that comes to mind for me is like Russell Westbrook. Just guys that can't shoot overall. That's what this Maryland team is. I don't know what happened. I don't know why exactly. I don't know why we're such a bad shooting team. I mean, you can look at the roster and say there's not a ton of high-level shooters, but nobody thought we would be this bad of a shooting team. I thought some guys would be able to make shots on a consistent basis, but our three-point shooting, our jump shot ability is probably the most inconsistent. It's got to be one of the most inconsistent teams in the country. I remember earlier in the year, I kept seeing the statistic about Maryland's basketball three-point shooting, and it was like we were bottom in the entire college basketball in terms of percentage and how much we shot the three. We're terrible at shooting, and I'm watching the same movie over and over again. It's like when you watch that show over and over again. We all have their favorite shows that we have watched multiple times, but it's not going to change how it goes. The show's not going to change no matter how many times we watch it. And I love this Maryland team. It's one of my favorite shows, but this feels like one of those shows I've watched a million times. And maybe I like the show, but I wish it ended a little bit different sometimes. And this show keeps ending the exact same every single time for this Maryland basketball team, and it's embarrassing to watch. I hate watching it. I don't know why we can't shoot the ball, but let's get into the actual. So last night, it was pretty much as bad as you could get from behind the arc. It was pretty much as bad as we shot. I don't know if we have shot this bad this year. I think this is probably our worst shooting game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a worse game than this. I didn't look before this podcast, but we shot 2 of 22 from the three-point arc. 2 of 22. Guess what percentage that is in your head right now? Guess. That is 9% from the three-point line. You're never, ever, ever winning a game like that in college basketball, shooting 2 of 22 from the three-point line. I mean, maybe you can beat somebody like horrible, like one of those earlier teams that we play that we can just completely out-talent and we'll win by 20 anyway, but you're not winning a Big Ten game like that. I would like to see the worst shooting performance from Big Ten team this year and what they shot from the three-point line, and they still got the win. I would like to see the worst shooting performance that still got the win this year. I doubt you can ever shoot anything below 9% or anything really close to 9%. You can't shoot 10%, 11, 12%. You probably can't shoot around there if you want to win the game. Unless both teams shoot the ball terribly, then maybe you would have a shot at winning the game in that type of situation. But we know that's been the story of this year. Maryland basketball can't shoot the ball. We're broke, like I talked about. I don't know how else to say it. There's not much else I can say and be like, we're better shooters than what we show. I mean, I would like to think that, but when you do it over and over and over again, at a certain point, you're broken. I don't know if it's in their head. I don't know if they're thinking about it too much. I don't know if there's something weird about the arena this year. I don't know what it is, but we just cannot make shots at all. It's a pretty terrible percentage that we're shooting. It's a pretty terrible overall performance when we do shoot like that. It's just we don't have a shot to win games like that. And it annoys me so much that one thing is just holding us back. And it's one of the biggest parts of the game. Get in the gym, work on your shot, and it should translate. I know not always, and I know a lot of them are practicing, but this is what the guys on the team shot. Nobody shot well from the three-point arc. Jameer Young shot 1 for 6. Jameer Young's been a pretty solid three-point shooter on our team. He's probably been one of our better ones, and I don't think of him as a shooter. I think of him more as a get-to-the-basket, mid-range type of guy. He can shoot the three a lot, and teams kind of not let him shoot the three, but they say we rather him shoot the three than just letting him get to the rim. But 1 for 6 from Jameer Young, he shot a lot better than that this year. Jamie Kaiser has got to figure out the three-point shooting. He's supposed to be a shooter, and he has a great stroke, and he's one of those guys when I talk about that he's just not shooting as good as you would think he could shoot, and as good of a shooter as he is, he should not be shooting where he is. He shot 0 for 5 from the three-point line, and Kaiser is a good shooter. He's a good stroke. He is everything. He was a really good shooter in high school. This isn't that one of those type of things where it's just a broke jump shot. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. He is shooting it. I like that he continues to shoot it, and he hasn't stopped shooting the ball. But I don't know what's wrong with Kaiser in terms of his shooting, but he has to get it figured out in the offseason. I don't know if it's more work. I don't know if it's more of a mental thing. I don't know, but he need him to be able to shoot the ball a lot better than he is shooting going into next year. And then Deshawn Harris-Smith shot 1 for 5, and we know Deshawn Harris-Smith, he clearly needs to work on his jump shot. When he shoots it, it's not a very natural-looking shot. He's definitely not a natural shooter of the ball. There's guys that are just complete natural shooters of the ball. And Deshawn Harris-Smith, I know he works on it a ton. I know all these guys work on it a ton. But sometimes no matter how many shots you put up, you're just not going to be as good of a shooter as some of the other guys. It's just what it is overall. But that doesn't mean you can shoot the percentage that they're shooting right now. Deshawn has to do better than 1 for 5, but at least he made one. Dante Scott didn't make a three-point shot. He shot 0 for 4, and Dante Scott has been a pretty solid three-point shooter for us, but he shot 0 for 4. So what? It's more the same. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact recipe that we're cooking every single time, and it comes out burnt every single time. We're putting it on the same temperature. We're putting the clock on the same time, and it comes out bad every single time. And so for now on, until I see a Maryland team shoot the ball decently well, I am predicting us to lose games. I don't think we're winning a game for the rest of the season. I don't care who else is on our schedule. I don't think we will win the game because we can't win close games, which this game was kind of close at the end. It ended up being like an 8-point game. This game was pretty close at the end. We can't win a close game, and then we can't shoot the ball. recipe for disaster, and it's wasting how good we are playing defense. And the crazy thing is it wasted a Northwestern team who I said, Northwestern, they shoot 40% almost from the three-point line. They only shot 15% last night. So we wasted a night where Northwestern shoots the ball poorly. And that was one of my keys to the game. I said if we can limit Northwestern's three-point shooting in terms of percentage, then we're going to be in a good spot to be able to win the game. They shot 15%. Our defense did the job. Defense does not win games. I don't care. Our defense is not, or I guess they say defense wins championships, offense wins games. I don't know, but defense doesn't win games right now. You got to be able to shoot the ball at least decently well to be able to win the game. Yes, you can get a ton of stops. Yes, you can play really good defense, but at the end of the day, if you can't score, it literally does not matter at all. Because the fact that Northwestern shot 15% from the three-point line where they've been shooting 40% all year and are still able to win the game pretty handily by like 8 points. It was decently close, but still able to win the game. Come on. And that's without two of their best starting guards that I thought were playing. I didn't realize that these two guys were not playing, and I talked about them. Two of their top four scorers were out. And arguably, I mean, you would say that the Boo guy is their best player, but then after that, arguably their next two best players in Ty Berry and Ryan Langborg, both out, and we still can't win the game. It's just more of the same. It's becoming a pattern. It's becoming obvious what is going on with Maryland basketball. I hope things can flip going into next year, but I don't know what's wrong, but we better fix it quick, and guys better get in the gym. And I realized the spread was as high as it was, probably because Berry and Langborg were out. That's not why I think Maryland was favored by 5.5. But Vegas thought we would win the game too. I thought that was too many points. That was a lot of points for Maryland to cover. But overall, Maryland basketball, it's more of the same for us. Deshawn Harris-Smith had himself a game. He's really confusing me. I will tell you about that after this ad from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Deshawn Harris-Smith. Let's get into Deshawn Harris-Smith. He is the most probably confusing player that I have covered in a while. He confuses me to the maximum. And I think Deshawn Harris-Smith is very interesting. He came in here as I was looking at the top-ranked Maryland recruits ever, and he was up there on the 247. He was like top 4 or 5 in the top Maryland recruits ever, because I was looking at it when talking about Derek Queen, which I'll talk about more in a second. But it's really hard to get a read on Deshawn Harris-Smith. I can't tell whether he's going to be an elite player, whether he's not going to be the best and he's not going to pan out, or if he's going to be somewhere in the middle and be a pretty good player for the Terps. It's really hard to get a read on this guy. And I hope the best. Do not get me wrong. I hope he turns out to be a Maryland great and his jersey goes up in the Raptors. I hope he is going to be that good overall. But he is confusing. He is very confusing because sometimes he looks great, sometimes he looks but he's just inconsistent. And a lot of times I have trouble seeing how he's going to be an elite player at this level because he has performances in him that I'm like, dang, Deshawn Harris-Smith really struggled today, and I'm not seeing a whole lot to think that things are going to get better. Like, there's been some of those performances. He had 0 in the first matchup against Northwestern. He had 0 against Michigan State. He had 2 against Rutgers. Games that we needed him in. Against Rutgers, against Michigan State, against Northwestern. We need him in those games. He had 0, 0, and 2 points against Rutgers. 0 against Northwestern, 0 against Michigan State. So you see those performances, and I'm like, should he even be starting? I was advocating for Jahari Long to start a lot of the time. And then it's like he'll flip a switch, and it's a different Deshawn Harris-Smith. It's more aggressive. It's a more confident. A Deshawn Harris-Smith that something more I expected. And he looks like a really top player where he starts scoring the ball. He has 17 against Iowa, 10 against Michigan. And, of course, last night I saw some of the best Deshawn Harris-Smith I have seen this entire year. He was one of our best players last night, where he goes 14 against Northwestern last night in one of his best games, where Maryland couldn't make a shot overall, and he struggled from the three-point arc, which we'll talk about. But in terms of getting to the rim, in terms of two-pointers, in terms of that type of thing, a lot of Maryland guys couldn't get a lot going, but Deshawn Harris-Smith was able to. He's a hard read. He's really hard to read. I'm curious what you guys think of Deshawn Harris-Smith. The thing I love about him is I'm often talking about his scoring ability, because to be an elite player in the Big Ten and in basketball in today's game, you have to be a good scorer of the ball. That's 99% of the good players. Some people maybe can be Dennis Rodman types, but that's very rare. That can just rebound it at a crazy level, play defense at a crazy level, whatever. But you're going to need guys that can score the ball at the end of the day. And Maryland struggles with that today. And so he does everything else well. He rebounds well. He can pass well at times. He plays defense pretty well a lot of the time. He needs to probably turn down the turnover sometimes, but he does other stuff really well. It's just really the scoring that really confuses me about Deshawn Harris-Smith. I thought he was going to struggle some going into the year just because I knew his shot wasn't going to be as good as it was in high school. It was interesting because he shot, they said, 40% from the three-point arc in high school, which is weird just seeing how poorly he shoots. But he didn't come in as an expected shooter. I expected him to struggle. Other people expected him to struggle overall, and he shot a really poor performance. But it's hard to say, are these good performances just outliers and something that aren't really going to happen, but maybe they'll happen every 10 games or so? Or is it just because he's a freshman and he's inconsistent and the bad performances are going to start to go away? That's the thing with Deshawn Harris-Smith. That's the thing we have to figure out with him going into next year. We add Derek Queen. I'm sure we're going to get other guys in the portal overall, and the team could look pretty solid going into next year, but he has to be a dude next year. If we want to be on that type of level, Deshawn has to be a guy. He's got to be one of the better players on our team. He's got to take another step, and that's why it confuses me sometimes, because I'm trying to figure him out. I'm trying to decide whether he is going to be a dude or not, because some of the performances I talk about where he can barely score the ball and he gets 0 points and he struggles, he can't shoot the ball at all. It's is he going to be a dude eventually? Then I see him drop 14 against Northwestern, and I'm like, he could be a dude for us, and we need him to be that. With Derek Queen coming in, and with how the roster is going to be with Jameer Young going into next year, we need him to be a guy. And he has a lot to fix this summer with the jump shot. He's got to get a lot better with that overall. That has to improve, and that's really going to be an indicator. But what I saw him do last night against Northwestern, as he gets older, he's already really strong and pretty physical, but as he gets a little bit quicker, I think, overall, and a little bit better of an athlete as he gets older, getting closer to his prime athletically, he could be something really good. And so I'm excited for him because I think he's on the right trajectory, but it's still really confusing and really hard to figure him out overall. Maryland football added 2 new opponents to its out-of-conference schedule. Do I like them? I will tell you about that after this ad from FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. That sounds like a good deal to me. You guys need to get FanDuel to take advantage of that $5 winning bet. You can bet on anything for $5, and if it wins, $150 in bonus bets. Are you kidding me? Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. If you want to bet LeBron James over, or you want to bet the Lakers to win like last night, what they did against the Clippers, or you want to bet on your favorite player's favorite team, whoever that may be, you can do that on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sports book of the NBA. So Maryland adds 2 new out-of-conference schedules going into next year. And I have to say, I don't love the ads. I don't really like the 2 ads that Maryland added to their out-of-conference schedule. Maryland adds FAU, Florida Atlantic, and Hampton to their schedules for 2025-2026. And I don't love these 2 ads, to be honest. The thing is, for me, Maryland football is in a weird spot right now. Similar to what I said about Deshawn Harris-Smith, it's kind of hard to figure us out. Are we like a good trending in the right direction, which I think we are? Are we in that pretty good spot in the Big Ten where we're just a tick below that elite tier, but we're in the good tier, or are we below that? We'll see. Without Talia, are we still going to be good? It's a lot to answer about this Maryland football team, and a lot's going to happen. This year's going to be a huge indicator. Was it just Talia and what he did to keep us afloat? Is that the reason we won 3 straight bowl games? What was it? What are we right now? But I'd rather Maryland play someone good out of conference and play some better opponents than FAU and Hampton, because I think you have to get yourself ready for this Big Ten gauntlet that you play overall. I feel like playing UVA helped us this year. UVA, they weren't anything crazy, but it's still an ACC opponent. It's still a team that has somewhat similar talent than you. Yes, Maryland was better in a lot of spots, and we kind of crushed them 42-14, if I remember correctly. But it's still good work rather than playing a team like Hampton and FAU, where pretty much no matter how you're going to play, you're going to win the game. That's just what it is. Against Virginia, that's not the case. When you play UVA out of conference, if you play bad, you can lose the game. You just can. We saw UNC when they were a top 15 team in the country. We saw them lose to UVA. You could lose to that Virginia team if you don't play well. And so I just think that's better for Maryland, playing those type of teams that you have to play at a high level at to be able to stay, to be able to get you ready for the rest of the season, the rest of the Big Ten play. Because with the expansion, with USC coming and UCLA and Washington and Oregon, the schedule could get harder. And I just don't love playing teams out of conference that are just easy wins. It's like you're going to win the game. Maybe it's important to get some wins under your belt. I could definitely see the other side to this. They're not horrible teams. FAU went 4-8 last year. Hampton went 5-6. But Maryland's probably realistically going to smack both teams just because FAU and Hampton can't get the caliber of athletes that Maryland can have. I don't know if Maryland doesn't want to take one of those early season losses. I don't know exactly. But I just think I'd rather play someone a little bit better than FAU and Hampton. We were going to play UCF, which I kind of like. I like that type of game. UCF has a good program. They have a tradition of being pretty good over these last couple of years. They've had some good teams. They've had some good players overall. They've had guys that have gone on to the NFL, and I think that would have been a good opponent. But that got canceled overall. But I would have liked playing UCF. I think that's a good spot in the type of program you want to play. But we're playing a couple of teams that I'm like, about. I'm curious what you guys think overall. Should Maryland be playing better out of conference opponents? I'm kind of unsure exactly what I think, but that basically, I'm pretty sure that I think that Maryland needs to play somebody better just because I know we need that early season work, and so we don't get punched in the mouth in our first couple of Big Ten games, because that can happen depending on who you're playing. You can take an early loss to someone maybe you shouldn't, when you have played a bad out-of-conference just because you're not used to the level of play that's going to come. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.